Hello and welcome to a football podcast with myself, Kristian Jack, and Steven Caldwell. Today we chat about Manchester City's incredible run to a Premier League title, Liverpool's sensational season. We have a special surprise for you as we go down our top 50 Premier League players of the season as we recap the season that was. We talk about the greatest week of Champions League football of all time, or was it? Some Toronto FC chat, and of course, Vancouver Whitecaps. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there listening today. We will get Steven Caldwell on the phone in a few minutes after he spent the day at Anfield. But Shawnee and I didn't get to spend the day here in Anfield. Shawnee, first of all, did you do your second leg? We spoke about this last week. You got battered 5-1. Have you played the second leg?
No, actually, we have a couple weeks off because when TFC play, it's like we take the week off and then the women's team play next week. So I got time to rest and relax.
There you go. So, you guys know your priorities. There you go. But TFC didn't necessarily have a great day Saturday.
It was a rough one.
Yeah.
It was two sides that I don't think neither played their best soccer.
Right. Yes. I had the fortune to call the game with Luke, and I thought that it was a game where one team certainly had an identity and the other one lacked an identity a little bit, waiting for individuals to take over. So that was an unfortunate performance by Toronto FC, and the Whitecaps did not necessarily have an unfortunate one. They got through it. They won the game 1-0. In the end, a good defensive performance by them again. And they're figuring out things, how to do without the ball. But today was all about the final day in the Premier League. 10 games at the same time. Manchester City win the Premier League with 98 points. Liverpool second on 97. Liverpool 97 points, 1 loss, 30 victories. All of those are obviously highs for them. And obviously also think about this. 2 teams in Premier League history, Manchester City of this season and Manchester City of last season, were the only ones to get more points than Liverpool's 97. That's absolutely remarkable. And I think, surely Liverpool, in the end, wanted to win that trophy, but we're going to get to Champions League in a minute. The fact that they've got that one game to come, I think made it a little bit easier to stomach the fact that they didn't end up completely trophyless so far.
Oh, completely. It was something at the end of the game where you watched them walk around the stadium. It didn't seem like they were disappointed, but it didn't seem like heart-wrenching because I think they knew all along that it was going to be very tough to do, and they also have a big game coming up.
Yeah, and I think, as we said before, this is the beginning of a journey for them. Jurgen Klopp said after the game, this is just a step. This is just a step. And, sometimes in sports, you got to learn how to lose, they say, and before you learn how to win. I don't think necessarily they needed how to lose. They just came up against arguably the greatest team in English football history. They are in the debate at 198 points. Manchester City conceded a goal against Brighton today, but in the end, they were able to put away the game. They won by 4-1. First time, by the way, they've won a Premier League game all season while they've been trailing. I've been doing some notes this week about teams who are trailing. Manchester City, in the end, were the best team of all time when it comes to how many minutes spent trailing in a Premier League season. And the team before that was the Man City of last season. So that just goes to show that it's just the amount of success they had when they were winning games this season was unprecedented. A special team and a special Premier League trophy as well. Okay, time to get Mr. Caldwell on the phone to get his thoughts from England and talk all things Man City Brighton and Liverpool Wolves. Okay, we'll head to the northwest of England now, and what a race we had. And Stevie, before we get to the final developments at Anfield and in Brighton, how was your experience at the Liverpool game today?
It was fabulous, KJ. It was just an absolutely terrific day. It was, beautiful May Day in the northwest of England, and it's one of the end of season games where the sun's shining and the pitch looks magnificent, and everyone was excited and prepared for what was going to be a special day, regardless of what happened, a few miles away down in Brighton. And the fans came to celebrate. There was some moments of real electricity and energy within the stadium when, obviously, Brighton scored through Glenn Murray, and you felt like it was going to be on. Liverpool were going to be lifting the title that day. Unfortunately for the fans in Anfield, it didn't last too long.
No, it didn't last too long, but I get the feeling from doing the broadcast here that there was never really a lot of sorrow there. Was that fair?
Yeah, it was fair. I actually thought, without getting too technical with that question, but that Liverpool were a bit flat today, understandable after what happened against Barcelona during the week. That there was a bit of a lull. I didn't think they played their best, so there was moments where the fans really got together and sang a song and had a moment, but really the performance was was pretty average for Liverpool. So there was definitely lulls within the game. They're just a side that can do everything, though. That really came to my mind today watching them play live, KJ. They just, when they are lacking their usual cohesion in attack, they just bunker in and they get into a really good shape, and it looked very difficult to break down. So it was a bit of that kind of day. I think they understood that they weren't at their best, and it was just important that they made sure they didn't concede a goal. They went a little bit tighter, of course, to go to the 4-4-2 when Milner came on the field, and once that happened, there was less joy for Wolves on the counter-attack.
And near the end of the game, there seemed to be a lot of singing about European Cups and heading towards the Madrid, obviously the game in Madrid on June 1st. Did you get the feeling afterwards when you left the stadium that it was something that obviously the attention turns towards them, but something that certainly helped stomach the fact that they got so close, but they now have that massive carrot dangling over them for the motivation?
Yeah, I think today there was a real feeling of pride in the way that they had performed for the entire season. Disappointment, of course, not just about not lifting the trophy, but a little bit of, I don't know if dread's the word, but you know, the enormous task of trying to topple this Manchester City side. They've had a season where they got 97 points and played so many great games. The one or two games, as the people were mentioning a lot, was obviously the Manchester City games where they only took 1 point from a possible 6, and that in the end was the key differentiator between the sides. So I think, you know, there was pride, there was definite happiness in how the season had went, but the realisation that it's going to take something extremely special to topple this Manchester City side. They're two wonderful teams, but City just have that little bit of an edge, and Liverpool are going to have to go into a summer with regards to the domestic campaign and find someone that can just turn that tide and shift the weight in their favour.
Stevie, you mentioned City, 198 points over the last two seasons. They finished the season with 18 wins out of 19 to catch up Liverpool, narrow that gap to in the end just 1 point and beat them by that 1 point. They got 4 goals at Brighton today. I know you didn't see that, but we were doing the post-game coverage, Luke and I, and we were talking again about those players on the field lifting the trophy. They were light young boys and the exuberance, and I know I always like to chat with you about that, and we haven't done it on this podcast, but just that enthusiasm from players like yourself when you win things like that, it just goes to show you what it means, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the effort that's put into it, isn't it? And this year with the two guys challenging each other, I think the amount of energy that was expended was greater than normal, and you see them go up, and it's an amazing moment. These guys that are at the top of the game act like little kids, act like teenagers again, because they're delighted to let their hair down a little bit at that moment, and then before you know it, it's back to professionalism and back on track. I got the chance to see most of that stuff after the game, KJ, when I was in the media suite at Arfield, and I was particularly happy to see Pep Guardiola. I thought, for a man who's normally so tense and structured, and you can see the cogs in his brain just ticking constantly on that touchline, to see him open up a little bit and celebrate with his staff, with his players, with everyone connected with the football club, was special for me, because as good as Klopp and Pochettino and Valverde, we could go on and on, Zidane, as good as these guys are, he is still the master, isn't he? He is the man, and he deserved that moment, because it's the fine details that he brings to that team, the quality of players that he's brought in, the quality of players that he's made better, that just make them so supreme at the moment. And the broadcast I was watching from Sky Sports were mentioning that the key for Manchester City is how can they convince this guy to stay for 5-10 years. They need this man at the helm to create a really truly consistent performer at European level and in the domestic league.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about that on TSN, and while I've got you on, I'd like your opinion. Luke said to me today that there was some articles in the English media where both these teams would have liked to have swapped with each other. Liverpool would have liked to have had the chance to win the Premier League today, and City would like the chance to go and win the European Cup. And I said I disagreed with it, because I just felt that, of course, Liverpool would love to win the Premier League, but I don't think Manchester City would swap places with anybody right now. How important it was for them, obviously, not only to win a 4th title in 8 years, but to go back-to-back. Special teams go back to back, don't they? And the first time the Premier League has been, defended in 10 years. Every other European league during that span has been defended multiple times. So what did you think about that? Did you think City today, it was important, wasn't it, for them to go out there and be a true special team and defend that crown?
Yeah, absolutely. Your bread and butter is always the domestic league, KJ. That is always the yardstick. Start every season. That's the consistency. To be a true giant within your game, within English football, you win the domestic league, and to do that back to back is really special in a time where you're playing against another team who got 97 points. So it shows you what it meant to them to keep going, to keep having that drive. They could have rested players at different times and focused on the Champions League, which is a little bit more of a balls are thrown up in the air, and we'll see how they land. When it gets to the quarterfinals and everybody's of a certain standard, it's they drop a ball here or there, an offside decision, obviously here or there, and things like that just mean you're winners and losers. So I think City were really focused on the league, and these guys are focused on everything. They want to win everything. They have that appetite and that need to just be at the top of the game and winning everything. So to say they would rather one or the other is just ridiculous. These guys go every game, they want to win everything. All the talk after the game was about FA Cup. They want a domestic treble. Never been done. Vincent Kompany's was adamant that the FA Cup's at the forefront of his mind, and they'll celebrate tonight a little bit, and then it'll be right back to business. And for them, hopefully a victory in the FA Cup against Watford in a week's time.
Couple more questions, mate, before we let you go. We've worked on this season all season long for TSN, and of course on this podcast. It's been a special season, and I obviously learned so much watching these games with you. But what did you think about this season? Obviously, people make the conclusion with 4 teams in the European finals now that it's gone to a different level. But obviously, I said today on TSN, Premier League has the brains, but it has the money, but now it has the brains as well, doesn't it? With these high level coaches making such a difference at the Premier League level.
Yeah, well, I mean, our opinions are never far apart. We spent so much time together. Ironically, I was on the phone to our senior producer, Owen, earlier, and I said that exact thing, and he said, KJ just said that a few hours ago on air, and we're on the same page, mate. We are. It's just an amazing time for the Premier League. It's only going to get stronger. You've got two of the best teams in Europe, in my opinion, Liverpool and City. Just had a record season. Yeah, it's difficult for the Chelsea and the Arsenals, Manchester United and Tottenham to stay close with them, but they're going to have to. They're going to have to spend the money. They're going to have to find a way, a style of football that's going to combat these two guys. So they're going to get dragged up with that. And then I look at the Evertons, the Wolves. The Wolves are terrific today. I was so impressed with the setup of Wolves, the quality of the players. Ruben Neves was outstanding in the midfield. Reads the game well, passes it well. Connor Cody to me is an England centre-half of the future. So you've got that mid-level team who are striving to try and break into the top 6 on a consistent basis, and the money, as we know, just keeps getting generated. So it's never going to change. It's here to stay, and I think it's going to be a real golden era for the Premier League, because it's the best in the world now. It's overtook La Liga, in my opinion, and it's going to get better and better.
Last one for you, pal. We know you went over there to reunite with the players from 10 years ago to celebrate the playoff victory with Burnley. How did it go? How was the night?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Thanks for asking. It was a special night. We had about maybe 10 of the guys that managed to get there. We had Graham Alexander was playing at Wembley for Salford, which was a great victory for him and for his football club. They're going to be in league football next season. Robbie Blake has had a commitment. So there was a few guys, Chris Eagles, could make it that weren't there, disappointingly, but the ones that were, we had a terrific time, and we were really celebrated by a packed Turfmill suite. Everyone was there to go through it. We had a look through the season, a few interviews, and just reminding ourselves kind of what it took to win that year, and the difficulties we faced as a club, and what it means to everyone associated with that club. Wade Elliott, a very good friend of mine, played with him at Burnley and Birmingham. He was up on the stage, and Paul Fletcher, who was also a fantastic player for Burnley, was our chief executive that year, and he was interviewing him, and he basically said, you've scored the greatest goal in Burnley history, and the magnitude of that, a club like Burnley, who have had so much success through way over 100 years, probably getting towards 150 years of football club, he scored the most important goal. That team were part of one of the most important moments, games and seasons in that club's history, and we're all very proud, very privileged, and great mates. We had fun. That was what came out of the night, Casey. We had fun. Yeah, we played hard and we worked hard and we were prepared, but we had fun along the way, and it was brilliant to share another night with them. And unfortunately, he wasn't on the field this time, but it was a great evening, and thanks to everybody for putting it on.
No, I'm glad you were there. Luke and I were joking during the TFC broadcast about you. We were looking for Dr. Caldwell at one point. There was a key injury on the field, and we're like, we don't want to call him at this point. It was like nearly 11 o'clock. We're like, he's going to be a few drinks, and at that point, he won't even be able to give any kind of good conclusion on any injuries at that point. So
the only conclusion I could have gave at that point, KJ, was I was going to have a sore head in the morning because it was on my 7th or 8th beer.
Well, mate, that's the best way to do it. I'm glad you were there. Thanks for joining us. Safe travels back, and we'll see you at BMO Field Wednesday night for DC.
Thanks, KJ. See you soon, guys.
Thanks, Stevie, for joining us all the way from Liverpool. What an incredible season for all of us, and I really hope that this is just a start for a new incredible era of football. And now it's what you've all been waiting for, the top 50. Earlier this week, Stevie and I broke down the top 50 performers from the Premier League this season. So sit back and enjoy. All right, now for a special segment as we look back on the Premier League the only way that we want to, and that is our top 50 players. And this has been a grind for you, you.
Absolute grind for me.
It's been an absolute grind for Stevie.
No, it was fine. It was fun. It was just difficult placing them. But
very difficult placing them. But this is why we set the task of both of us to do that. So what we did was we asked each other for each other's top 50 list, and then we basically took the numbers and combined them. So it was easy. Basically, the lower the number, the better you are. So if, for example, we had somebody who was third and somebody who was eighth, you get a combination of 11 points. If you're not in the 50 list, you get to be number 51. So that's how you added it up. And we had 38 names. The same.
That's pretty impressive.
The 50. So in the end, it came down to only 62 names. So let's go through them. We're going to break these down in tens, and then we're going to explain. There's a few of these where certainly early on in the show here where the one player has made it just based on only one of us. So that's where we really stand up to go for it. So here are the top 50 starting at number 50. Number 50 is Wolverhampton midfielder Ruben Neves.
Nice.
Yeah. Number 49, David Brooks from Bournemouth. Number 48, Jorginho from Chelsea. 47, Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Crystal Palace. Number 46, Lucas Fabianski, goalkeeper from West Ham. 45, Idrissa Gana Gueye, a midfielder from Everton. 44, Ben Chilwell, Leicester City left back. 43, Will Hughes, the Watford midfielder. 42, Declan Rice, West Ham midfielder. And 41, Moussa Sissoko from Tottenham. So some good names there. Anyone that you want to talk about right away before we get into why they're there, or do you want me to just go in there right away?
Go in there.
Go in right away. All right. So Ruben Neves we both had, but we had him both very late, so he gets in just. Same for David Brooks as well. So we both had him at 49.
Right.
And he ended up being 49. Jorginho is the first on the list with only one of us, and that was you.
Yeah.
And he had a decent season, but obviously a little bit of not necessarily the breakout many had hoped.
I just think he was a player that everyone started to attack, but when you look at the season and Chelsea getting in the Champions League, he played every game, didn't he? Or pretty much every game. He was very consistent. Yeah, he had some difficult moments, as most of these players had on their list, even, So I just think in the early start of the season was terrific. He looked amazing for the first 68 games at least. And I just think that there's a lot of things to like about his game, and I think he'll probably have a better season next.
I agree with that. Hopefully he does, and Chelsea will need him to as well as they go into another campaign in the Champions League. Next three were mine only. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, one of the best right backs in the Premier League. I think he was voted Crystal Palace Player of the Season, and I think it'll be very difficult to keep hold of him. He's a very good young player. And by the way, we talked last week on the podcast about Manchester United buying players.
Yeah.
He'd be a good,
he's
a good
perfect, isn't he? He's a fantastic player. He really is. Yeah. You could argue he should have been there. Yeah. These numbers here year are difficult, isn't they? Because it's sort of preference.
The preference, at the end of the day.
But he had a wonderful season.
Yeah, I also had Lucas Fabianski on the list. I think he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League this season. Without him, West Ham would have been maybe in even a relegation battle. He's been that good, saved almost everything that's come his way.
Yeah.
Idrissa Gana Gueye was mine for Everton. I think that they have a real good base to end the season. They've done brilliantly, and if they can keep hold of it, a big if, that's, PSG have been sniffing around him for some time, but he is a really good player particularly in his interceptions and the way he reads the game. The next two are yours. So, Ben Chilwell and Will Hughes, number 44 and 43. I mean, Chilwell, we talked about last week, the Monday nighter, he was tremendous against City.
Yeah, absolutely tremendous and consistent all year. And I think he's on the verge of a big move, much like Wan-Bissaka, and a lot to like about his game. He was amazing at the Etihad. He really was. His composure on the ball, loves to get forward, but also defends. He has to be on it for me. And I think Will Hughes has been really good. He's one of the guys who, is not the most flamboyant, but he plays off a wide area. He comes into central areas, picks up nice little positions. And I think when you look at Watford and the success that they've had this season, I looked at them as a team and I thought, who's been one of a few of their standout guys, and Will Hughes for me has been one of them.
Yeah, I had Capoue and Decore really close to this as well. By the way, I think Decore was actually 51st because I had him late, and so did you. Yeah. But Declan Rice, talk about a player I couldn't just get on the list, but has been magnificent. You had Declan Rice quite high, I think, on your list. If you want to check that while I do this. And I had Moussa Sissoko. So the last two came down to that. I just thought Sissoko just grew so much this year. Another example of a player under Pochettino who improved dramatically. And, in some ways, often it was just basically, he was the only one in the midfield who could actually be a midfielder and ran the show. A bit of a familiar theme amongst these names, but Declan Rice, another potential Man United player or somewhere else he's going to maybe go next season. Yeah,
a brilliant player. A guy who's, again, been very consistent for West Ham. He's improved as the season went on. I think he'll probably become a world-class centre-half, in my opinion, maybe in a back three. But he's playing midfield just now, and I don't think it'll do his career any harm because he's comfortable in that area. He's learning, to look over the shoulder and what it takes to play in that area, and it'll stand him in good stead.
That's it for the first 10. Okay, going on to the next 10, and I believe out of the next 10 we have 4 mutual ones, and then 6 other ones. 40th, Granit Xhaka, Arsenal midfielder. 39th, Wilfred Ndidi from Leicester City. 38th, Callum Wilson from Bournemouth, who obviously had a great relationship this year with another player on this list coming up soon. 37th, Andre Gomez from Everton. 36th, Felipe Anderson from West Ham. 35th, Marcus Rashford, Manchester United. 34, Crystal Palace midfielder Luka Milivojevic. 33rd, Gylfi Sigurdsson from Everton. Number 32, João Moutinho. And 31, Ryan Fraser. I guess it kind of works that Fraser and Wilson are on the same list because, to be honest, they've connected a lot. Most goals connected since Shearer Sutton. It's been absolutely remarkable that the way they've gone about it. Granit Xhaka was a name I was surprised to see on your list. Xhaka's in the court. Defend him.
I know you detest Xhaka.
I don't detest Xhaka.
Yes, you do as a football player. No, I think that I think he's been good for Arsenal. I really do. I think he adds a bit of steel to midfield. And I think he's another one of the guys that they get a lot of abuse, but I think they're pretty consistent.
Right.
He does silly things, I know that, but I think, the way that he's been in that midfield, he's added a real steel to the area. I think he has to be mentioned. I think when you look at Arsenal and their defensive woes, I wonder where they would be without somebody like him. So for me, he had to be there.
I had Wilfred Ndidi 33rd on the list. He didn't quite make your list. I think he's been one of the best central midfielders in the Premier League. I think he's played almost every game this year for Leicester, and another player that I think if you're a top club you can look at as being that. Callum Wilson, a player I know we both like. What a player he's been this season, and there was those rumours all the way through into January about Chelsea and £50 million, but all this guy does is keep scoring. And and as we've learned so many times, if you're English and you can perform at a high level in the Premier League, there's going to be a high wage on you.
Yeah, he could be like a Vardy, couldn't he? If he gets to a team where he's getting he's getting good service at Bournemouth, but if he gets to a team a little bit higher up, then I could see him scoring a number of goals because he's very consistent, clever movement, underrated the way he moves to get opportunities, and a player that we both really like, and his partnership with Ryan Fraser has been sensational this year.
The next four were all mutual picks. Andre Gomez for Everton at 37, Felipe Anderson at 36, Marcus Rashford at 35, and Luka Milivojevic at 34. What do you think about those players? Felipe Anderson, a player that I know we both like a lot.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's a very good football player. Now, can he take his game on to the next level? Can he show a bit more consistency and keep delivering? Because if he does that again at West Ham, they're going to struggle to keep a hold of him because he'll be on the radar of the top 4, top 6 teams. Gomez, great signing. Can they hold on to him?
Yeah.
He is very important. You talked about Idrissa Gana Gueye. I'm with you with that one, KG, but can they keep on to this guy Gomez, because he just complements Gana Gueye really well. Gana Gueye breaks it up and starts it simple, and then you have the kind of panache of an Andre Gomez, a style to his play, and a powerful player as well. I like him a lot. Rashford has to be there as well.
Yeah, Rashford, inconsistent, but in the biggest days for Manchester United was there shining. Anybody who can score penalties at a rate of over 90% is a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of him because Luka Milivojevic was a player. He's been playing every single minute of the Premier League, and I think he's just been absolutely magnificent. And by the way, a real leader for Crystal Palace. That doesn't get discussed enough. He's been brilliant for them, I think.
That's something I look to when I'm trying to make my list, how important they are to their team.
Good point.
Obviously out with the top 3 was very consistent. We'll get that as we go up the list, but Liverpool, Man City, Spurs. But then as you look down below, how important, what do they play, what role do they play for their team? Milivojevic, nobody plays a more important role for their team than him. He's so critical to the success of Crystal Palace.
Talking about that, Gylfi Sigurdsson, one of the best players for Everton this season without question. What a great season he's had. I think he's got better as the season's gone on. João Moutinho as well. I think it's just been a real pleasure to watch him play in the Premier League. I know Wolves fans everywhere just love him. And never would have dreamed to have a player of the panache and the quality and of João Moutinho. And Ryan Fraser, again, another theme here, a player that's linked to big clubs as well. So that is our list through 31. Okay, next 10. We start with Tottenham defender Jan Vertonghen is 30th. 29th, Diego Jota. 28th, Jamie Vardy. 27th, David Silva. 26th, Everton left back Luca Digne. 25, Paul Pogba. 24th, Raul Jimenez. 23rd, James Milner. 22nd, Ilkay Gundogan. And 21st, Gigi Wijnaldum. Now we're really getting into this. Now we're, as this list comes along, we're going to really talk about the difference in our voting, because these players are all on our lists now. Jan Vertonghen is a player I wanted to ask you about, because you had him a lot higher than I did, and I mean a lot higher. So let's get into that. I think I had him about 45th, and you had him around 23rd.
23rd, I had him,
But I know every week watching games with you, the admiration you have for him.
He's an outstanding player. He's turned into a real quality defender, as well as what he always was a very good passer, and I think a real leader for that team, someone they miss sorely when he's not in the team. Nothing against Davinson Sanchez or Jan Foyth, but they're not the same team when Vertonghen doesn't play with his partner Alderweireld. But Vertonghen has been brilliant. He can step forward with the ball, and I had him pretty high, KJ. I think that he's, again, critical to his club, Tottenham Hotspur. No,
I agree with that. Jota has been so much fun to watch, hasn't he? Vardy with all his away goals, and I think he's really come on this season as well. He deserves that spot. I think I had him quite a lot higher than you. Talking of which, I had David Silva a lot higher than you did as well. Big discrepancy there.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, that just comes down to just how we read the game or whatever, and consistency of David Silva. I think I had him 16th, and maybe you 45th. So
I'm trying to find him.
Big difference there.
I don't think he had his best season.
I can see that.
45th maybe a little bit low, but I don't think he had his best season. And I just thought there was times where he looked as as sort of leggy as I've seen him in years, and that's why I had him so low. But one of my favourite players of all time.
Yeah, when we watch him play, it just goes to another level. Digne's been great for Everton. He deserves his spot. If it wasn't for Robertson, he's probably the best left back in the Premier League. Pogba, always a controversial pick. One of us had him 27th, one of us had him 31st, so we thought pretty similar. Yeah. When he was on, he was really on. He was named in the PFA Player of the Year, by the Team of the Year as well. Raul Jimenez, what a player, what a signing. Yeah. 30 million, and he's going to be sticking around for some time. And James Milner, 23rd. Just, as the old man says, just keeps going on, huh?
It's amazing.
It's amazing that James Milner is 23rd in the list.
I know.
I mean, I think we're both consistent. Very similar in terms of where we put him as well. So amazing.
Yeah, brilliant. So consistent, KJ. You just know what you're going to get. He's such a leader in that team. He's got so much industry in the middle of the park. He can play left back. He can float into other areas. He's just the guy. You can start him. You can bring him off the bench. You can sit him there the whole time. What you see is what you get with that guy. So much admiration. Ex-teammate of mine. Great fella and a brilliant player.
And before we get to the next 10, Ilkay Gundogan 22nd and Gigi Wijnaldum 21. Very similar. In fact, Gundogan and Wijnaldum have excelled in different positions, and they can ask them to put the consistent level that they've reached for their teams all season long is absolutely remarkable. Gundogan actually liked it when Fernandinho was out, and he stepped into that role. He brought him a little bit more quality, and obviously Fernandinho's difficult to replace, but both of them have been exceptional.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they're next to each other because they're so similar, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just out and out football players. Play 5-a-side, play 11-a-side, play right side of the midfield, play the deep midfield, play as an attacking. Gundogan's played as a false number 9 before. Wijnaldum did it as well recently as well, didn't
Barcelona,
he? So, just wonderful players, both of them, and again, really important. City have got a little bit of a battle to keep Gundogan. They'll need to keep him because he's a brilliant football player, and Wijnaldum's took his game on to another level this season.
Talking of players similar and being fitting next to each other, number 20 is Fabinho, so that kind of works out well. 19th, Trent Alexander-Arnold. 18th, N'Golo Kante. 17th, Christian Eriksen. 16th, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. 15th, Son Heung-min. 14th, his teammate Toby Alderweireld. 13th, Alexander Lacazette. 12th, Roberto Firmino. And 11th, Alisson Becker. So a lot of good choices there as we get down to the last 10. And again, a lot of consistency now. Now we're really at the level where we really didn't disagree a lot at all on these players. Fabinho, one of the best players for Liverpool in 2019, without question, just grew into the season. We had him 20th and 28th, and in the end he finished 20th because of the voting over that. Alexander-Arnold, we talk a lot about him on this podcast. Conte has been not quite the level that maybe he wasn't at a different position, but still a magnificent footballer every single time, whatever you ask, and incredibly humble at everything he does.
Yeah, I think we've clearly saw a different side to him because of his attacking play, but it's been interesting to watch. He's got more to his game, and so we'd both agree that he's better in that deep line role.
Yes.
And we hope that he gets back there, but he's shown that he's got more strings to his bow. Again, critical to his side. That's a theme that was through mine throughout. I think we're very close in a lot of the positions here as well in terms of where they come in the rankings. Aubameyang, I had him at 17th. Where did he end up there?
16th.
Yeah. So, great season from him. Love the partnership that he's creating with Lacazette.
Yeah, without question. I mean, Lacazette's involved in here as well. Lacazette 13th. It's tremendous.
That's high, isn't it? And it shows you what season he's had.
Yeah, I agree. And Son, he's, when he really needed to be stepping up with Harry Kane gone, he was outstanding, wasn't he?
Yeah, when he's good, he's just breathtaking.
Yeah.
He went from being a very good player to a world-class player this season. You think of the Champions League quarter-final, especially second leg against Manchester City, unbelievable efficiency and ruthlessness from Son. It was one of the best performances I've ever seen from him. Maybe one of the best recent performances from a Spurs player. I'd say it was that high.
It was that good, wasn't he?
Yeah,
you're right. And talking about Spurs players, Toby Alderweireld, one of your personal favourites.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the best centre-halves in the league.
Yeah.
Another theme here is Manchester United targets, but
exactly.
to me, he's a guy they have to go and get. He's so good, so consistent, does everything well. His defending is terrific, but he can step forward with the ball, play long and short passes, and a great partnership with Vertonghen. He was pretty high on my list. I really think he's had a great season after, not so great season last year through injury and different things and form, and so it's nice to see him back at that level.
Now, often when you work 14-hour days, you can sometimes make mistakes, and as I'm going through this list, I've realised I've made a mistake. So we're all in this together, and this is actually turning out to be the top 51 players, because I've just realised that there's a player I put down 10th twice. So anyway, we can also,
right.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun here. I had down number 10 Harry Kane and Ederson.
Right.
So it's actually, they were tied. So, and let's break the tie, because we actually had Ederson higher on the list than no individual ranking for one of us. So Ederson is actually higher than Kane. So we'll slot Kane in there, in between there. And, sorry, Shawnee, we're just giving you a bunch of problems with your paperwork now. But we move into the top 10. Ederson, gets the nod over Alisson just as the best goalkeeper for us in the Major League Soccer, in Premier League this season. Yeah. And what a player.
What a keeper, isn't he? He's everything. He's a playmaker. He makes big saves. He comes for crosses. He's a presence back there. He's the best keeper in the world for me right now. And
really, yeah.
I love Alisson Becker as well, but he is the best keeper in the world. He just does everything really well, and very little mistakes from him as well. And to see such little mistakes from a guy who makes bold decisions all the time is remarkable. His decision making, his consistency to do the right thing, but to be coming forward for things like that is incredible.
He's involved in every single minute.
You think
every
you
game.
Get it wrong now and again, but no, how often does he get it wrong? And
yeah, like we had Fabianski there, and I saw some people say this year that he was their best goalkeeper, but like this guy is involved in every action on the field, every time. It affects where the defenders stand, it affects the way that the other team plays against you, it affects everything. His distribution, he has completely changed the way they play the game. Yeah, and you think about that big moment against Liverpool when Sadio Mane came through and the ball went almost over the line. He's there in his face, he's out, he's there. Those kind of things that make the difference sometimes. That's Ederson at number 10. Number 9, Andrew Robertson, Liverpool left back, but the best left back in the Premier League without question. And for you and me, Robertson, I think I had him 10th and you had him 6th, I believe. So I'm not surprised with that. Obviously, you rate him extremely highly, as do I. But
I do.
What a season! What
a season! And that's why I had them so high when I'm thinking about defenders and what they produce. I just had them really high because of that reason. And I also think the development in a player's game in one season, and I've never seen someone jump so much. Went from being a good left back and sort of in a bit of a battle at his own club to being one of the best left backs in the world, in my opinion. Now I could see him playing for nearly every team in the world. I could see him play for Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. Like, he wouldn't be out of place.
No, he wouldn't.
And that's how good he is, and that's how far he's came. And he's Scottish, so I had to have him high.
Of course, have to get him in there. The Scotsman is in the top 10
it's unbelievable.
Premier League players of the season. Think about that. Anyway, no disrespect to Scotland. You've got many great players over the years. 8th is Sergio Aguero. I had him 5th. You had him 11th, but in the end, the Magic Man again. And what we need to say about Sergio Aguero is that Gabriel Jesus is nowhere near this list.
Yeah.
And 2 seasons ago, people were writing, and quite very reputable people saying Gabriel Jesus is taking over from Sergio Aguero, and this is his job to lose now. And Aguero's mentality, and of course his talent, but his mentality has won the day here.
Yeah.
He was relentless in that position, keeping that role. And yes, he's a goal scorer, one of the greatest goal scorers the Premier League has ever seen. It's a privilege to watch him every single week, no matter what team you watch. And, I think again, an example that Guardiola got the better out of in a different level that we even saw before he came.
He challenged them. He challenged a already world-class player and said, I think you can be better. And I think that a lot of people, a lot of players with egos of these guys would have went, who do you think you are telling me that? I'm going to hop it and go to any other club in the world.
Yeah, he could have gone anywhere.
Instead, he went, okay, I'll show you, and he took his game on to another level. And I had him at 11th, and I will admit it, I take the guy for granted. I take his goals for granted. He plays in a wonderful team, and he's one of the fellas I don't think will ever. I know you love him, KJ, and you've always been consistent with that, but I'm always one who sort of takes him for granted. And I think I won't appreciate how good he's been until he goes, until he hopefully doesn't leave our shores, but when he retires or whatever, we'll realise what a player he was. Does everything, left foot, right foot, header, on the edge of defenders, 30-yard goals, 20-yard goals, tap-ins. He does everything. An amazing striker.
Amazing striker who makes the hardest thing in the game look so easy sometimes. 7th is a player we both had 7th in Aymeric Laporte. We both had him at number 7, and I think there's no coincidence there. You know, for me, the second best centre back in the Premier League, and it's not close. I remember watching Laporte a lot before he came to the Premier League. You know, for those who don't know, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Athletic Bilbao, and Laporte I always felt was a Premier. I remember you and I talking about him before he even came. We watched him in Europa League games, and I remember actually a rare tweet that I got right the moment that he signed. I was like, this £59 million, this is the kind of player that no one's ever going to talk about. Costed that, an absolute steal, and a player of great elegance as well. And I love that about him. Yeah,
you were ahead of it, KJ. You've been talking about this guy for years. You always liked him, and when nobody even spoke about him, and he sort of came from under the radar, and then everyone was balking at the 59 million. Nobody even says a word these days.
Nobody,
it's just
since been extended, by the way, as well.
Extended to, what is it,
24, I think.
Yeah, 23, crazy, a long time. And a brilliant player, brilliant defender. Great passer of the ball, can switch the play, exactly balance, exactly what Pep Guardiola needs. He's got everything to his game, and we both had him at 7th, and for me, he had to be extremely high, because I think in a year of such great attacking football, defenders have been awesome as well. Everything in their game. We talk about goalkeepers doing everything these days. These defenders have to do everything as well. They have to leave loads of space in behind them. They have to get in the ball. They have to make angles. They're working more than ever. They have to be able to head the ball in the certain games, defend properly, and guys like Laporte do everything.
I'm excited to see him go to another level, because I think he's still got another level in him as well. Like, and imagine what he could be. He could be an absolute colossus. 6th is Eden Hazard. I had him 4th, and I think you had him 10th. So a little, 10th, but I mean, for me, an absolute privilege to have him in the Premier League is going to be a big loss. You know, the way that he's contributed to Chelsea this season, he's carried them in many games, taken them to the Champions League. A genuine superstar in the Premier League that does things that, quite frankly, nobody else in the Premier League can do.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's exceptional, and there's nobody else like him. That's why everyone wants him, and he's single-handedly led that attack of Chelsea's this season. Who knows, maybe to a Europa League title, and certainly to top 4 Champions League football next season. And a great servant. People will be negative about him leaving, but I don't begrudge him that. I think it's time for him to leave as well.
I agree,
it's time for him to move on and test someone else in a different league.
We go into the top 5, and a reminder, before we get all the tweets that people will be having, goes, these is the top 50 players of this, top 51 players of this season, not necessarily of all time. Number 5, Mo Salah. Mo Salah comes 5th after coming 5th on a list, and 6th. I'm not sure who had who, but one of us had 5th, one had 6th. So pretty consistent on Salah. 5th. And again, everybody thought last season was going to be very difficult to match. No one knew no one ever imagined he was going to get that many goals, but what a player. Again, just continues to take Liverpool to another level.
Yeah, he's critical for his side. He's a brilliant football player, and another one with just outstanding mentality. Just the consistency to keep going and keep driving his team forward, I think, is very, very special. It looks like a brilliant teammate as well. Works hard,
great guy,
humble guy. Everything that you expect, and that epitomises Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool.
And at 4, I feel like Bruno Brooks here doing the countdown on Sundays. And at 4, we have Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane comes in at 4. And we should do the 3rd here, because this is a tie. It was a tie we had to break. At 3 is Bernardo Silva. And we broke this tie by doing this. But Sadio Mane was ranked 3rd on your list, and he was ranked 8th on my list.
Okay.
And Bernardo Silva was ranked. Oh no, it wasn't a tie actually. Bernardo Silva, Sadio Mane and Mo Salah was a tie. Here we go. So 3rd and 8th, and Salah was 5th and 6th. They both got 11 points. But Mane was given the edge because you had him 3rd. So a player obviously that you rated a little bit higher than me to get to 4th. And Bernardo Silva was 3rd. I had him 3rd and you had him 4th. So you had Mane just a little bit ahead of Bernardo Silva, but really, let's be honest, we're nitpicking, aren't we? Yeah,
we really are.
Great seasons by both.
The two of them are just brilliant at what they do. I just went for Mane because of his goals, and the improvement in both of them as well was exceptional. I think they became really, really important to their team. They were obviously important before, but improvement in their game. I think to try and tell the listeners at home, to see improvement at that level, for it to be really noticeable, is incredible, KJ.
Yes, good point.
To move up when you're a world class player, to be noticeable in terms of how much you improve is really, really difficult. And I think with both of these guys, they were already there, they were already at the top, and they found a little bit extra, they found a little bit more to their game. And that's exceptional to see. That's why they're so high for me.
I'll talk quickly on Bernardo Silva. And for me, I was very tempted to put him in the top 2. I think he's been absolutely magnificent. Carried Man City through certain games. A real leader on the field. I talked about it on TSN last week a little bit. I love what he's like defensively as well. How he narrows angles down and reads players and really puts his body position at a point where you can't get out.
Yeah.
That's a really valuable part of his game as well. So for me, a future player of the year. Very soon. And, okay, after that, I'm afraid we have a tie here. We have a tie at number 1. This is just down to the system. We can't break it. I had Virgil van Dijk 1, Raheem Sterling 2, and you had
Raheem Sterling 1, Virgil van Dijk 2.
So, and we can't break the tie. So we're going to just say, you know what? They are our co-winners.
Yeah.
Co-winners of our top
Both
50
deserving.
plus 1.
Well, how do you split them? You know, one's a dominant defender. He's been everything at his club, and another guy who, again, is improved dramatically and became so consistent.
Yes.
And so good going forward. It's difficult, isn't it?
And one who won the Players Player of the Year.
Yeah.
And one who won the Football Writers Player of the Year. So they couldn't split it either. They gave different trophies for them as well. But that has been our top 50 players. That was fun.
That was great.
Well, hopefully, and you know, we are taping this when we've done an incredible amount of hours work. So we probably missed out on some amazing player that we just forgot about.
We're going to get the tweets. Tweet them in.
Tweet them in. We want to hear from you. Hashtag AskAFP. Slaughter us for picking whoever you think and whoever should be there.
Ernie will have wanted more Wolves players in there.
You know what, Ernie? Sorry, but I had Doherty and Johnny Castro and Cody, but all like top 60 players.
Yeah,
but
just nearly there.
Nearly there.
Yeah.
But
you couldn't make the top 51.
You know, you finished 7th. You're the best promoted team since Ipswich 01. You know, you've had a good year. It's all good. That concludes our Premier League review. We will be right back in a second with hashtag AskAFP. And we are back with the last segment of the podcast, and obviously you know what to do at this point. It's hashtag AskAFP. Make sure you send in your questions by using the hashtag AskAFP. Sean, what do we have in the mailbag this week?
So Cal asks, does 4 English teams getting to the European finals after a World Cup break put to bed that English football doesn't need a winter break?
Well, it's a good question, Cal, because this coming season, there will be a little bit of a winter break. They're obviously not bringing in one as large as some of the other European seasons, but they are bringing one in where they're staggering it. So many teams will be on, not 10 teams will play, 10 teams will play 1 week and 10 teams will play another around FA Cup times as well. So it's a fascinating question. I think what it does is it certainly will put to bed the thought of giving away 3 or 4 weeks in the winter time, even around that Christmas break. You know what else I think it does? And I said a little bit of this on the TSN broadcast. I think it really solidifies the thought that the toughness in the Premier League is contagious. It's really helped these teams on the European stage. I certainly think we saw that with Liverpool against Barcelona. We're going to get to that in a second, but they reach a level of tempo and strength in the mind that I don't think these other teams are used to seeing. So often the complacency sets in a little bit. Barcelona's so good in Spain this season. Bayern Munich's so good. PSG, Juventus, you name it. They just don't have the level of competition from the top 6 that they do in the Premier League. So I think that certainly helped them. accomplish a monopoly on the finals this year from the English football.
Yeah, speaking of the Champions League, Ryan asks, is this week of Champions League football the greatest you've ever seen?
I think it is. I think the way that it went about, and I put a few things out on social media, and of course you get some people saying, was that just because it's English clubs? And it's got really nothing to do with it from my point of view. I just don't evaluate games that way. I just think that the way that it went about, the fact that the comebacks were just so unique, and they were in back-to-back days. I would go on and say that, the Liverpool one, I was like, I can't believe I've seen that. That is one of the greatest comebacks ever. And then I think Tottenham's comeback might have been better. How did you handle it? Because, you're obviously emotionally a wreck by that point, I would imagine. But did you ever think that this was on? Because I'll tell you this, when they scored goal number 2, I'm like, they're going to win this. And I got called into a meeting. I was at TSN. I got called into a meeting. They're like, oh, can you do this meeting now? I'm like, So I went in to speak to my boss, and I paused the feed with 15 minutes to go. And my phone's like, boo, boo, and I'm not looking at it. And I just go back and I sit there and watch. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And then it gets to 95th minute. I'm like, maybe they didn't pull it off. And then to watch Lucas Moura put that in, I'm sure you went crazy.
It was incredible. This entire floor was just like, there's somebody like on the other side of the floor in the washroom, and he's like, I heard you scream from there. And it was, like that second one went in, you're feeling it and everything's going well. But then Ajax were doing a good job. They got the ball in the corner a couple times. There was that call with a minute to go. Yeah. I was like, is this their last chance? And it was headed over the bar, and you're like, well, there it is. And then like with a couple seconds left, you're like, oh, it's on Moura's foot. Oh my gosh. It just started shaking. You can't even, that's why the sport is so special. It's those moments. And it's crazy that in back-to-back, like Champions League quarterfinals and semifinals, you get the exact same moment. Tottenham. And it's absolutely brilliant.
And to think about the run they've been on, their first 3 games in the UEFA Champions League group stages, they got 1 point. 1 point in 3 games. They were winning at Milan, Inter, and they lost 2 goals in the last 5 minutes, obviously to Icardi and Vecino. And then they got battered by Barcelona, conceding a goal with Lloris after the first few seconds. They had 1 point after 3 games. And now here they are in a Champions League final. You could see what it meant to Pochettino. And you're right. That's what's the beauty of the game. To bring out those kind of emotions in you is, I always think about these moments when they come up. You get people in sports who often refer to as we, are we going to win tonight? And I have never had a problem with that. And I'll tell you why for those moments. You can't tell me that Tottenham fans are not allowed to be enjoying that and call it we. The amount of pain that they've been through, the moments they've been waiting for an opportunity like that. The Liverpool fans inside the Anfield Stadium, they had a complete connection to that. They contributed to that. If those seats are empty, Liverpool are not winning those games 4-0. Come on. Say we all you want. I have no problem with that.
Amen. Moving on. Mr. Green asks, after such a strong season from Scott Arfield in Scotland, 11 goals and 6 assists, should he look for a bigger move or stay put where he's playing great football?
I think he's going to stay. I think he signed, at least a 3-year deal when he was a free agent after Burnley. He's beloved there. They absolutely adore him. He's perfect for that play, for that team, who are on obviously the climb again from the doldrums of the relegations and because of the issues in the past over the last few years off the field. And he sets a winning mentality. And you know what? We're really lucky to get him in Canada, because I'll tell you this, when he's not in the squad like he wasn't in Vancouver, there's a void missed. There's that void missed of that real leadership and winning mentality. And that's not to say anything about the other Canadian boys. They're learning and everything, but Arfield's the alpha male. He's the alpha male in the dressing room that brings the leadership together, the connection between the coaches and the players. And he does that for Canada when, he comes to a camp every now and again for 10 days. You can only imagine what he's doing on a daily basis, at Rangers for Steven Gerrard as well. So stay where you are and keep up the great work, Scott.
Peter asks, is Haka Pozuelo going to be a good strategy for other MLS teams until Ali Curtis can bring in more attacking talent?
Yes, 100%. Why not? I thought Philadelphia, and I spoke about this during commentary, and hopefully those who were watching with me could kind of see me build it up, because that's kind of your job when you do it. The job that I did that day is to try and show people the patterns of play. I felt that they walked that tightrope, didn't they? They really did. They walked that between what was fair and what wasn't. And in the end, they gave away some unnecessary fouls in the first half. I think that's why Fabian was removed after an hour, because for all of his qualities, he's a butcher. And he was really getting to the point where he was chopping them down a lot. Plus, some of the set pieces weren't great. And in the end, the unnecessary foul by Bedoya that led to the free kick that Pozuelo then, that was a beautiful goal, by the way. It didn't even have much of a backlift and just kind of just looped it into the corner. But you're right. I think at this point, physicality, try and stop him from what you can do. And, Ali Curtis, the watch is on. I've spoke a lot to Ali on and off the camera over the last few weeks. I think that they believe that they are okay at the moment, but it's clear that TFC have become a bit predictable ahead of a big week coming up again.
Mark asks, have the Whitecaps turned the corner, and do you expect Ali Adnan to stay in Vancouver for the rest of the season?
I think they have shown an ability to really be difficult to break down. And I think they understood that after conceding those 3 goals twice in the first 3 games. They came out with this idea of expansive football. Mark, we had him on our show, didn't we? He talked about that, setting the stone going forward. And I think he understands that the easiest thing to do out the two is to make sure that you're very difficult to beat. And there's a lot of talk in Vancouver over the last few years about entertainment and easy on the eye and all that. For me, it's all nonsense. You got to win football games. And if you are in the what I would call MLS2 of finance, which they are, and they're not looking like they're getting anywhere near away from that, by the way, the second half of the MLS, then in a lot of games, you've got to understand that the opposition has more game breakers than you do and have better quality players than you do. So if you're looking at that opposition and you much like Portland, and you're thinking 7 or 8 of those players would easily get in our team, you've got to be able to find a way to stop them. And he's worked really hard with that in that system. The 3 midfielders have worked really hard. They've got a good shape about them. And Adnan helps that. But I would say this is that defensively, I still think he takes risks. But of course, he's brought technical quality in the wide areas, and you can't have players fully buying in every single time defensively in every position without having some quality going forward, and he brings that. I'm not sure if they're going to keep him for the rest of the season because it's going to take some financial commitment, and again, that comes down to his desire to stay, which I think he wants to stay, and the Whitecaps' desire to put that money. Do they want to spread the allocation money somewhere else? For example, with a team that clearly needs more attacking talent.
Speaking of defenders, OG the Dim asks, who is a defender in MLS that you really like the style of play he brings?
That's a good question. I mean, trying to think. I mean, some of the defenders in Major League Soccer are I think that they're a little bit underrated. They don't get a lot of love. Like, you always get the MLS 11 come out and it's got 3 defenders max, and you've got 8 forwards. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm trying to think of some of the defenders that I've enjoyed watching. Walker Zimmerman's a really good player. Yeah. I like him a lot. I like Kai Wagner from Philadelphia. I thought he was very good on the weekend again. I think he looks like he could be a really good player in Major League Soccer going forward. It's a really good signing from Ernst Tanner. There's a lot of good players defensively, the way that they get going. I think Steris is pretty good for Galaxy too. He's really solid. Like I said, there's a lot of good. It's getting better defensively. I think individually in some of these areas, I still think questions team wise, you got to look at it. But that's a few. There's a few more out there. I'm trying to think of a few of the fullbacks. I mean, Justin Morrow is a very underrated player in Major League Soccer. I don't think many people talk about how good he can be.
Yeah.
In MLS. And I really like Giallo from Montreal. I think he's just got the potential. Him and Cabrera as a partnership when they're switched on to be 2 of the best centre backs in MLS. So, yeah,
great.
Okay, thanks, Shawnee. And there you have it, folks. Another Premier League in the books for myself, Steven Caldwell, Sean, Clay, and everyone else. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you next week for another episode of A Football Podcast.